Hey everyone, this is Lucas and welcome to The Fuji Show. We are at episode 3 today, and I am joined by a very special guest, Kevin Norris. You can say hey.
Hey.
Kevin is from our very own team. He's our Apple Enterprise Specialist, and I wanted to bring him on to the show today because of what we're going to talk about. He's going to bring a lot of great insights from the field. We work hand in hand quite a bit doing deployments for Apple products and non-Apple products on occasion. And what we're talking about today, leaders of an organization are really going to appreciate this because, first of all, it's free. That's the topic of today.
Always
is
good.
Free Apple services that'll actually benefit all of the devices in your organization. But IT administrators will also appreciate what we're talking about because it gives you some of that magic that everyone in your company thinks you have, or you very well may have it. But we're going to be talking about Apple services that are free that really help you with your mobile strategy. And when we say mobile, these days it also includes Mac.
Yep, laptops, iMacs, everything.
Seems like Apple's development plans are now including Macs as a part of any new MDM spec. So what we're going to do is talk about a few services today. They all happen to be acronyms, so you'll get to know these acronyms pretty well. DEP, which is Apple's Device Enrollment Program. The VPP, Apple's Volume Purchase Program. And then we're going to talk about our favorite free MDM. Okay, that'll be toward the end. And an MDM is a mobile device management service. Now, because this topic gets pretty technical, what I thought would be a good idea is we have the TLDR version at the very beginning, kind of the shorthand, hey, what you need to know if you're thinking about taking advantage of some of these services. And then we'll just spend a couple minutes on that and then go right into more of the how-to to help you spin up your own services right here.
For sure.
So let's start with the TLDR version. The too long didn't read. And just introduce the idea of DEP. It's this free service by Apple. But before we get into DEP, we'll get there in just a second, I want to define one term, okay, and that's a supervised device. Kevin, can you tell us what's a supervised device? Like, how does it benefit a team or an organization? And then what do you need to do to get a device from unsupervised to supervised?
Yeah, so Apple really likes to protect its end user experience. Consumers, that's the market that Apple has won with for a long time now. So what they've done is come up with this term supervised to identify devices that are company-owned or corporate-owned devices and that give you a whole additional array of options when you're managing those with an MDM that we mentioned.
Right, yeah. We get questions a lot, like in the discovery process. Can I do this with my iPhone or this with our iPads? And the answer really depends on whether or not that device will be supervised. So like one example that I know we get a lot is, can I prevent Find My iPhone from being turned on a device? Because many employees might, when they leave a company, the phone they were using becomes bricked because they forgot to disable Find My iPhone. So if a device is supervised, you can actually disable that. Is there another?
Yeah, Apple sees these as invasive features that if it's a consumer-owned device, if it's my device, I don't want a company being able to do these types of things.
Yeah.
But if I'm an organization and I'm purchasing these devices with company money, they're corporate-owned devices, I want to do anything I want to do, basically.
Right. Now, there's two ways to supervise device, right?
Two ways.
There has always been a traditional method. And then there's also a newer, much easier method. Can you highlight what that traditional method was?
Yeah, so the old method is through an app called Apple Configurator. And this is not a very difficult process to do if you know how to use the Apple Configurator app. It's a free app in the Mac App Store. You can download it on any Mac. But basically, it's doing it manually. You plug each device in via USB, configure the settings, and you have the ability to supervise it with Apple Configurator. Now, with one or two devices, that's not too bad. But if you have 10 or more, it kind of gets time-consuming and a little bit more convoluted.
Right. Okay. So that's how it's always been, I guess. And then what's the new way we've been using the last couple of years?
Yeah. So that's where we bring in DEP, and DEP gives you the ability to purchase those devices as institutionally owned devices on day one, so that when you open the box, they're already supervised, like we talked before.
Exactly.
They already have those abilities out of the box. You don't have to plug them in, reconfigure them. They have all of those options on day one.
Cool. So for the short version of these services, what I'll kind of wrap up with on DEP is it does two things for you primarily. To Apple, it proves ownership.
Yep.
Right. And then secondly, after proving that ownership, it automatically enrolls your device into your MDM service. Okay. So without getting too much into the weeds, would that be kind of a good summary of what DEP does?
Yeah, and there's a lot of MDMs out there, and we'll notate one or two at some point today. But yeah.
Cool. So that's DEP. The second super valuable service that's free for anyone is called VPP, or Apple's Volume Purchase Program. And what this allows you to do is for companies to purchase apps so that end users, your employees or students, don't have to purchase them. Okay, so it makes that billing process easier. It also allows you to more easily distribute the app using your MDM. So I know it's getting kind of muddy here, but your VPP works with your MDM to automatically distribute those apps.
And it's the same. It's the same as that app is institutionally owned. And again, I don't want to get too deep, but these apps that you're buying, you don't buy them once, and when that employee leaves, you retain ownership of that app, which is a big deal when it comes to finances. You're investing in a lot of apps in high volumes, and VPP gives you the ability to purchase an app and retain ownership of that license forever, basically. It's
and with
company-owned license.
Absolutely. With the simplicity of these services, even a small business of 5 to 10 employees, I still think it's worth it. Because when you do have that occasional turnover, it's just easier. Maybe one employee leaves, those licenses are automatically retained by your MDM service, and then when you enroll the new employee's device, they get those same apps. So if it's all set up from the beginning, it makes it really easy. And really all of these services can also be set up in the middle or after your deployment as well. There's the best time is at the beginning, but we absolutely work with organizations afterward as well. So that kind of summarizes the shortened version of what these services are. But let's go back to DEP and just talk about some how-tos to set up your own DEP account for your organization. So first things first, you can visit deploy.apple.com. Nice simple website to begin that process. What I will say in that process, it's going to ask for an email address, little kind of tip from the trenches here. For that email address, please don't use your own email. Use kind of a generic address. Well, the one we like to use is DEP at yourcompany.com or AppleDEP at yourcompany.com, and just make that an alias to either a general email address or to your own email address.
Somewhere in your domain, and that alias can be moved at a later date. If you need to have someone else, manage your DEP account.
Exactly. So once you go through this setup process, then you can actually create additional users if you have a few people that you want to have access to this DEP program to manage the ownership of your devices. You can do that after the fact. But for the very first form that you're filling out, do a generic address. You're also going to need a DUNS number. The majority of clients that we work with, don't know what a DUNS number is or even have one created. Apple likes to say that every company should have one and does have one. It's not really the case. So just be ready. If you follow everything smoothly, it'll take about a week of just getting your number, going through this process to get approval. They will call your organizational phone number to kind of prove that you're the company. What Apple's doing during this process is really proving you are who you are, because that's kind of the glue that holds this entire security platform together, is proving the company's organization and ownership. So that's kind of the enrollment. Anything else as far as DEP on the how-to part that you can think of? There's the reseller part.
So once you get this DEP account created at deploy.apple.com, that's essentially a portal for your deployment. It hosts your VPP account as well. So you have DEP and VPP at the same place, deploy.apple.com. Did you want to move into VPP?
One other thing I want to mention about your DEP account, you can do two things from within that portal. You can establish your MDM servers there.
Right. Yep.
Okay. Doesn't matter who it is. Apple is working with several MDM providers, whether that's Jamf, Meraki, IBM Mass 360, Mobileye, AirWatch, all the major ones. It also allows you to establish the reseller that you are purchasing your Apple products through. It doesn't have to be a reseller. You could be purchasing through Apple. But if you happen to order iPads through Verizon or something, you can call your Verizon rep or whoever you're purchasing through to get their Apple DEP reseller ID.
Yep,
that's a mouthful.
Yep,
your Apple DEP reseller ID. Every organization out there that resells Apple products has one number, so it shouldn't be that hard to find. So that kind of sets up the framework. That most of the work for DEP is all up front.
Yep.
Once it's done, then purchases you make are automatically enrolled into your MDM.
Yeah, that's the benefit. At the end of the day, the benefit of having your DEP account, your VPP account, and your MDM all tied together is that when you buy a product, it has the ability to seamlessly enroll in your MDM. Whatever MDM you end up choosing, as long as there is a relationship shared that is set up really once in the beginning, it's a seamless process of buying it by through whoever you buy it from, and it getting enrolled in your MDM very quickly, and not having to go through enrolling it in your MDM manually post-purchase. It just makes it really easy.
Yeah, and what organizations do with a DEP environment is you can ship those devices directly to your employees. Okay, so this is great for satellite offices.
Yep.
So they unwrap the cellophane, they get that kind of new product experience. They're excited about their work tool, which is pretty cool. And then it just asks them, for their Active Directory credentials or any other settings that you need to set up the rest of the apps on that iPad or iPhone. So again, DEP, I can't believe it's free. What this tells me, I guess something that I'm proud of for Apple in doing this, is that they've listened to the market demand. This is an enterprise level service that's absolutely free. And they're listening to their business customers.
Yeah, for years people have been going to the Apple Store or Best Buy or wherever, buying a device and then going home and then supervising it and then going to your MDM, enrolling in your MDM. And there's like 8 different steps in this process, and Apple has really streamlined this process for IT administrators just to make it easy.
Yeah, so it's an absolute must. Speaking of free services that Kevin brought up just before the show, is that every Apple store has a business team. We work with business teams basically weekly.
Yep.
But these business teams at the Apple stores are your direct free line to Apple's business services. So whether you're in Atlanta, of course, we're happy to help with any of these setting up these programs.
Yep.
But if you're not in Atlanta, you have these Apple stores at your disposal to help you walk you through this process of setting up these services.
Yeah, there's a direct line, phone number, and email address to every business team at every Apple store in the country. That's a huge value add where you can pick up the phone, call a number, and an Apple representative answers the phone right away.
Yeah.
Not
don't
only
need like an Apple account.
No, they answer, and this is huge when it comes to setting up all these accounts. These business specialists will also do workshops on DEP and VPP. Talk about best practices, get into the weeds a little bit, and get hands-on with setting these services up the right way. And those guys can be really, really, really critical help in this process.
Cool. So let's roll into VPP now, which is Apple's volume purchase program. There's less setup for the VPP, but I think there's just a couple of things to note. Like Kevin mentioned earlier, deploy.apple.com will get you to the VPP login page also. And there's just a little bit of setup involved for this. The first is to set up purchasing details, obviously. And then it's to create a trust between the VPP site and your MDM. And it involves like downloading a token from the VPP site and then uploading it to your MDM. There's a little token exchange there.
Yep.
And what that allows you as an IT administrator to do is actually purchase apps from your MDM. So let's say you're in Meraki or you're in IBM Max 360. You can actually just purchase 50 Angry Birds apps, for $1 each from within your MDM, and they appear in your MDM service ready to distribute. Okay, so once you kind of have a choice. It's a little confusing, but you can purchase apps from the VPP website or from within your MDM.
Yep.
Okay, you can also create additional administrators. So if you have a certain purchaser in your organization that prefers to handle all the billing details, you can make requests to them. So you can create multiple accounts under that VPP portal. Okay. The last thing I'll mention about VPP is your options. Kevin touched on this in just a few minutes ago. You have two options when you buy these, 50 Angry Birds apps or a PDF app, right? There's two ways to purchase these licenses. There are the redemption codes. That's right.
Yep.
And managed distribution. So if you choose redemption codes, Kevin, what happens?
Well, if you buy one, you get one little redemption code that you have to enter in manually. If you buy a few, they may give you a spreadsheet of
it's in
a few.
.xls spreadsheet.
But that is the code for that app. And the negative side to that is once it's redeemed with an Apple ID, it is redeemed. One-time use. It's used.
Yep.
And then the other option is the managed distribution.
Yep.
And that option is going to give you the ability to distribute that to a device, and then if and when a device is deprovisioned or a user leaves the organization, it gives you the ability to withdraw that app and still maintain that license.
Right. And that process is actually managed through your MDM.
Yep.
Okay. So whenever you say selectively wipe a device after an employee leaves, your MDM will automatically have an inventory of licenses purchased and licenses available for each one of your apps. So it's pretty cool how Apple has created these platforms to really integrate with a third-party tool of your choice. Cool. So that wraps it up, I think, for VPP. So let's dive in just to the MDM conversation, which goes into more third-party tools. And since the topic of today is free services, let's highlight a couple of free options that you have if you want to spin up your own MDM service. I'll mention the first one that we've recently started using. It's been out for several years, but we started using Meraki more. Okay, Meraki got purchased by Cisco. I don't know if that was a year or two ago. Yeah. But I see why. It's just a brilliant, lightweight MDM that really can grow with a lot of organizations, and your first 100 licenses are free. Okay,
it's a big deal too.
Yeah,
100 devices for free.
Absolutely free. Yes, there's a catch, I guess. I mean, they're straight up free. While they're free, you don't have phone support with Meraki. And then when you get to your 101st device, you will be paying for 101 licenses. Okay,
so pay attention.
Yes, those 100 free licenses are not forever. They're until you get to 101, then you're purchasing all of them. Okay, but we work with organizations that they'll only ever have 50 devices enrolled, and that's kind of a great option. Yeah. And the other reason we like Meraki is that it is platform agnostic, if we can use that term. So Android devices, Windows devices, we'll use that for like BYOD environments
for sure
as well. What's the other free service that we like to use?
We really like Bushel. It's by Jamf Software. Bushel is really a great platform. It's a very simple MDM. If you're looking to maybe get started with an MDM, I feel like it's a great start. The first 3 devices are free with Bushel. There's a lot of MDMs out there. I mean, there's tons at this point, and some of them get really granular with what they can do. I mean, for instance, Jamf Software has a suite called the Casper Suite, and you can get really detailed with the things that you're doing with that MDM. But the reason we like Bushel is because it's so simplistic. what a lot of companies want to do is really just make sure devices are secured and that they have a password on
the
them.
passcode lock.
Yeah,
it's easy to distribute your email address, for example. So I really like Bushel's approach. After those first 3 devices, you're starting with your 4th device. You're paying $2 per device. Okay, and that includes Mac or iOS device, and it is Apple only. Okay, so that's the little catch about Bushel as well.
Yep.
So we really kind of go back and forth between those. We also go into other paid MDMs. We could really have an entire episode on this.
There's tons.
But IBM Mass 360 is one of our favorites. So is Jamf Software's Casper Suite. If you have questions about those, just let us know on your social media network of choice. Use the hashtag AskFuji. And we just really want to make this content useful for you guys. So on that note, this is a wrap. Thanks, Kevin, for joining. Please continue to ask questions, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Hey, thanks for watching. If you find value in these episodes, be sure to subscribe so you'll get notified every time a new one is released.